is that the federal government gives a considerable chunk of money to the states every year in order to fund certain programs that are administered by the state. These are particularly concerned having to do with what in California is called Medi-Cal. It deals with medical expenditures for poor people. When the war started in Iraq in 2003, the United States federal government began to reduce the money that they gave to the states. That is, there was a big increase in military spending beginning in 2003, an increase of $128 billion on top of the budget already. In the same period, the amount that the federal government gave to the state and local governments fell by $44 billion. Over the next 5 years, that meant that California had been, that the states had been reduced in their federal contributions by $138 billion, less than if they had been funded at previous levels. And California's share of this loss was $16 billion up through 2009. Now, there was an economic crisis in 2009, and so the federal government gave us some money back. They gave us about $8 billion in funding, which is about half of what they'd taken before. Now, supposedly United States has ended military operations in Iraq, but whether or not there will be military operations in other places in the Persian Gulf, like Iran, is still to be determined. Certainly there's considerable risk and threat of this. The United States is still fighting in Afghanistan. It's recently fought in Libya and is talking about intervention in Syria. So we're not looking at a reduction of war expenditures. Instead, the United States Defense Department has come out with their new budget. They're still going to have 11 carrier groups. They're still going to have expensive fighter planes like the F-35. They're going to spend an enormous number of billions of dollars that is going to go for destruction and competition with other powers. Now, of course, that war and recession are not the only causes of cuts. The priorities of government and politicians is a big factor too. California spends a tremendous amount of money on prisons, an amount of money which has constantly been increasing over the last couple of decades. You also find that the politicians have their own priorities to spend money, even in these times, on huge projects that they like. As Governor Brown wants to spend many billions of dollars, not clear how many, on a high-speed rail project that could cost $100 billion by the time that it's over. And of course, we have there are priorities that in our own system, which certainly don't promote education. We had our latest president, President Hirschman, got a 33% raise over our previous president. That's $100,000 a year. $100,000 equates to between 20 and 25 sections that could be taught to students, but at the lowest rates that faculty get paid around here. That I think we should expect that the future dangers of war are not going to go away. The United States has serious rivalries with other major powers in Europe, in Russia, and in the fastest growing capitalist economy on the planet, which is in China. We should, I think, take account of these I dropped my notes here. Take account of these in some important ways. We should expect that in order to fight back, we can't simply say we can persuade the politicians to behave differently. I think we need to have a large militant mass movement that fights not only against education cuts, but against the system which is behind it. And in particular, we have to put a lot of our efforts into fighting against present and future wars. We should be demanding, for example, that the United States not attack Iran, or that their ally Israel not do this thing either. That the United States should not have further enormous military spending, that they should spend instead on other priorities. And we should also expect that since these policies here are policies that have been in place for a long time and serve the corporate capitalism, the 1% at the top of society. They're not going to be dissuaded from doing this simply by people pointing out the irrationality or the ridiculousness of it or the desires of most people in society. We need a large, militant mass movement that combines fighting back against war with fighting back against education cuts. I think if people who think that they can send a letter to Sacramento or an email or make a phone call, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I think the fact is we need to go much farther than that, and we need to have a much bigger perspective about what it would take in order to change the nature of education in a good way. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Myrna Cruz? Are you here? Okay, awesome. Myrna Cruz is from ACHA.
My name is Myrna Cruz, like she mentioned. I am part of Association of Chicana Activists, also known as ACHA. I would like to thank all of you for being here, especially to women out here today. I would like to thank you for being here because I am so glad this is happening. These are the things that should be happening because our voices are not being heard. And they believe that we do not care, and we're continuing to sit in our classes because they feel like it's right for these things to be happening. And one question that I have is, why are we continuing to sit in our classrooms when we know that these tuition increases are happening, and will continue to do so for the past semesters, next semester, this semester, and the semesters to come? Budget cuts are happening. The money we pay does not equal what we are receiving back. Resources are being cut, such as ethnic studies, the Cost Cultural Center, which benefits us a lot and provide us with resources. Professors are being let go of. Classes are increasing with students, and so on. This is not right because education should be free. It should be free for our... It should be free for our generations to come because it will also affect them. Our people, our youth, shouldn't have a second thought about applying to a four-year institution because of money. Money shouldn't be an obstacle for them. And these kinds of events shouldn't just be happening today. It should be happening every single day until we see change. Because like it was said before, this is our university, and we have the power to make the change that we need. Stand up for what you believe is right and voice your opinions. Always stand up. And right now, I will share a poem with all of you. Budget cuts, 2 words. 2 words that emphasize money. 2 words that paint a picture in our minds of money dropping. 2 words that for many have a negative connotation. Because when funding it cuts, it affects many people in a negative way. This is why I am here. This is why you are here. Budget cuts. Reality is that not all people see these 2 words in a negative way. There is the capitalist, the racist, the sexist, the homophobic, and the other people in power. It is these people that use the phrase budget cuts as an excuse to implement their capitalist and sexist and racist policies. We saw this happen in 2009 when the local admission guaranteed was removed by President Weber. Budget cuts. It's not just about money. Budget cuts. It's about people. The people that will receive a poor quality education. Budget cuts. The people that can't afford to pay their tuition, to buy their books, to pay for their supplies. Budget cuts. It's a wake-up call. A wake-up call that budget cuts, two words, take action.
Yeah. Whose university? Our university. Whose university? Our university. Yeah. All right, our next speaker is Avery Ware from the Occupy San Diego Labor Solidarity Committee.
Yeah! Thank you. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak here. Does anybody remember the Occupy movement? Yeah! We're still here. We're still here for two reasons. One thing is that in the fall, the last 3 months of last year, what we learned, because even though only thousands of people took action and occupied their city squares all around the country, tens of millions of people in this country rallied to the cause. What we learned is that if there's a determined political alternative put forward because of the terrible suffering of the last 3 years, which our two-party political